Support.
The maestro, please!
Welcome to the last video that I'm making for the year of 2020, in which we are going to
literally review every single piece of music that we went over this year.
And go. And this was before the Cranberry Juice, the only person competing with the Chainsmokers on the EDM charts. I mean, it's pretty much just Travis Scott, let's be real. Showing that pop isn't the only genre that Korea can dominate, and I mean, people really like him too. Again, half their music is a cello, don't know why it's the piano, guys. I mean, it's Miles Davis, what am I supposed to say? Hey, look, it's not the Christmas album. I wonder if Vince Guaraldi is ever gonna be known for anything besides Charlie Brown. Ravi Shankar is her father. I mean, it's Frank Sinatra, what am I supposed to say? Nice to see a cellist other than Yo-Yo Ma. I mean, it's Louis Armstrong, what else am I supposed to say? For a compilation album by a really well-known rock band, I'm surprised this only came out in 2003. Sure not all dat now since you broke up with Megan Thee Stallion. A decent comeback after 5 years. Roddy Ricch essentially dominated for the rest of the year, too. As I always say, he's at his best when he's pissed off. R.I.P. Mac Miller. Matic is a good name for this because it was taking influences from just about everywhere. Not gonna lie, I had no idea why this recharted. I do like these compilation albums that reimagine all of the songs as opposed to just being remasters of them. I mean, it's an older style EDM, but it's still pretty good. I mean, it's Louis Armstrong for a second time. What else am I supposed to say? This really ended up overshadowing their next release, the new OK. The first of what would become 4 of these that we looked at this year. I don't know if I'm remembering correctly, but I feel like Zoo went harder. I mean, you really can't follow up the Carter 5 considering how long we waited for it. I should actually try sleeping to this. Nice to see a take on Gil Scott-Heron. Yo, Khruangbin and Leon Bridges make a really good combo. Boy, this really didn't sound like the Green Day that I remembered. I feel like a lot of popular rappers nowadays have high voices and then Pop Smoke comes in with just this very deep voice. It was surprising to hear Dolly Parton on an EDM song. No idea what the movie was about, but the music was fantastic, but what are you gonna expect from Robert Glasper? A pretty sad album, although considering that his producer died and he got divorced. There was a good chunk of time when people just wouldn't shut up about this. I honestly don't know if I like Hoodie Season or this better. Really trying hard to just be an R&B and not a pop artist anymore, but the Grammys apparently differ. Proving to me that a K-pop group can have a lot of success with an English album that aren't BTS. I still stand by my comment that this is just 2 songs being played back to back. This is still very much an EDM album. I don't know why it's on the classical charts, that's a lie. I know why it's on the classical charts, because she has a violin. This, on the other hand, is a very classical album. Really just proving how good of a musician Pat Metheny is. As far as metalcore go, this is pretty emo. Hell yeah, new Ozzy Osbourne! This was what, his 15th mixtape? The boy just makes music! Her son's name makes so much more sense after you listen to this. It's stuff like this that makes me want to learn Korean. You know, alternative metal is probably a good name for this. There's a reason this got nominated for Best Traditional Pop Vocal Album. It was pretty cool to hear G Herbo take a more conscious rap approach after his last album. Boy, he sure did take his turn. We really were vibing with some softer EDM albums this year. It was Spotify's most streamed album, period, and for good reason. Yo, if you just want to have a chill time, I just enjoyed this one so much more than any of the Love is Rages. Honestly, I think I prefer NCT to BTS. I guess this is the smooth jazz equivalent of cello music? I guess off the Cactus Jack label, I would put Don Toliver second to Travis Scott, given that really only leaves Sheck West at third. You know, in case you've forgotten that there were other members of One Direction besides Zayn and Harry Styles. This is a great song, y'all should go listen to it. I mean, it's Yo-Yo Ma, what am I supposed to say? Apparently the Grammys need to be reminded just how good of an album this is. I'm actually looking forward to the next Conan Gray album. So what, this is the 3rd time I'm saying this? I mean, it's Louis Armstrong, reminding you that there are more heavy metal bands that have front women than just Hailstorm's Lizzie Hale. I don't know if there's a thing as post-grunge yet, but we're certainly getting there. I don't know, I guess I was just expecting more of a Party Next Door than Party Mobile delivered. We very much went from dubstep to just like chill disco and house. I mean, this album was just full of hits, so did some growing up since Young Blood. It really is nice to hear David Foster's music. Most people nowadays just know him as a big music executive. I mean, y'all are just doing yourself a disservice if you haven't heard this now. R.I.P. John Prine. Overall, this is a pretty solid metalcore album. Every single time I get this confused with John Bellion's song All Time Low, and boy are they very different. Yo, I hope Rod Wave is feeling better. He sounds stressed this entire album. The fact that this song is named after a video game that I very much still enjoy playing, very much walking that line between country and R&B. Andrea Bocelli is starting to strike me as a male and more classically oriented Celine Dion. Certainly was nice to listen to a new album by The Strokes. Ah yes, before Tory Lanez shot Megan Thee Stallion. Again, apparently the Grammys need to to be reminded that this was a great song and from a great album. If you haven't heard this album yet, you should probably go listen to it. You know, maybe it's not as good as Kirk, but that doesn't necessarily make this a bad album. Who actually got to pick which 50 were the greatest? Not gonna lie, maybe not as accessible as Geography, still a good album though. Just some good old heavy metal. I still continue to enjoy anything that Dance Gavin Dance has put out. Again, he just makes music constantly. After doing so many of these Dave's picks, it was actually refreshing to hear the experimental thing they did at this performance. It was kind of interesting to hear Drake experiment a little bit. Y'all know that Ed Sheeran was on this album? I don't think this was even intended to be an album. Ludovico Einaudi just started screwing around on his piano at home and they recorded it. Good start for Hayley Williams' solo career. I feel like the deluxe edition really carried this though. I know Toxic was a promotional single, but I still think it should have been released as an official single. The only reason this got to #1 is because it was combined with Brown Boy 2 as its deluxe edition. All around, really strong Americana album. Wouldn't call him the GOAT, nor would I call the album the GOAT, but it's a decent album. Decent album, not Future's best, but decent album. Honestly, I'll take Millennium remixes. There's a reason this beat out Say So by Doja Cat and Nicki Minaj. Yep, this is certainly by the 1975, has all that stuff in it. You really couldn't have picked a better name for this album? Just all of the collaborations on this album. To take a break with Joanne just to come back and dominate the EDM charts just like she did with The Fame. Yeah, Jimmy Buffett released The Thing. I still think he should play the trombone with a name like Boney James. I'm just really excited that a new Norah Jones album came out. Yo, this is a great song. You should all go listen to it. For a classical album, boy does this really want to make me listen to bluegrass, which I guess was kind of the point. Not exactly new Neil Young, considering this is from the 70s, but hey, boy, this sure is Lamb of God being Lamb of God. A bit long-winded at times, but if there's anybody who can get away with doing that, it's gonna be Bob Dylan. Proving that Khruangbin does sound good with Leon Bridges, but does not necessarily need Leon Bridges. I generally just enjoy anything that Haim puts out. Now this is the kind of EDM that I expected. R.I.P. Pop Smoke. Just in case you forgot that Hamilton came out on Disney Plus this year, this whole thing is just a joint. After so many live albums, it was really refreshing to hear a studio album. Forgot industrial metal was a thing, to be honest. R.I.P. Juice WRLD. Always love me some heavy synthwave. DaBaby and Roddy Ricch are certainly a force. I was expecting this to be a bit crazier than it ended up being. I like this kind of country. What even is this? I'm kind of sad that we're not gonna get any more Logic, supposedly. Well, this was certainly a surprise in more ways than one. Unlike the other one we looked at this year, don't try to fall asleep to this. I really want chicken tenders now. We do so many of these every year. Obviously, it's not gonna be a jagged little pill, but Alanis Morissette's still killing it. Well, this was certainly a trip. We really are just vibing with house music. It's a fairly traditional country album. Fun to listen to Frank Sinatra and Count Basie. Well, after his last thing with Key Glock, it was interesting to hear him on his own. I know this is a Cardi B song, but I think Megan Thee Stallion's verses go so much harder on this. I feel like after 10 studio albums, this would be a good place to end it. Yeah, it was a good album, but I don't think anything's ever gonna beat Hot Fuzz. I liked this so much better than Nasir. Gotta love the early 90s. I know this is the second one, but I still don't know if Metallica is the best group to do something with an orchestra. I mean, it's Charlie Parker, what the hell am I supposed to say? Gregory Porter may not be my favorite current jazz musician, but he's up there. I mean, if you're nostalgic for the late 90s, I guess. They're always against labels, but boy, do they get really close to that Christian rock line. I mean, I always enjoy me some Gorillaz. This whole album is just fun to listen through, honestly. Did this need a remix album? No. Did I still listen to it? Yes. I mean, it was okay. I mean, Lang Lang is a great pianist, and this is probably one of the better versions that I've heard of the Goldberg Variations, but I've heard the Goldberg Variations so many times at this point. Come on, this album is just like historically important. It's the Rolling Stones. What the hell am I supposed to say? Ha! No. Yo, if you want to know what the music of Detroit is like these days, this is not far off. Yep, this is Marilyn Manson being Marilyn Manson. I swear, it's like every couple of months, something new. You should all go listen to all of the music that I've been making this year. Come on, John Coltrane, and then come on a second time, Giant Steps. And that goes for Thelonious Monk as well, although I feel like we don't talk about him as much. I mean, it's the first time we've heard Black Youngsta on the show. Alicia Keys, still killing it in my opinion. I mean, this is just a great jazz trio. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you drink a dry red wine to. Now, this is the kind of alternative metal I can get behind. I don't know, it just sounds like he wants to be on the next Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack. Ah, yes, after he shot Megan Thee Stallion. Yo, just shout out to Joji in general. I mean, it's fun to hear hear all of the early Britney Spears stuff, even if it is remixed. Proving that BTS isn't the only K-pop group that's out there in the world, although I guess we did talk about Monsta X and NCT earlier. I mean, it's Ella Fitzgerald, what the hell am I supposed to say? R.I.P. Eddie Van Halen. You know, Bon Jovi, I appreciate it. Not quite the follow-up to Trap Soul that he might have been expecting, but it was still a decent album. I still like Stay Dangerous better. Now this is how you do a sequel album. Honestly, I think Blackpink is gonna be my favorite K-pop group. I feel like they just go so much harder than the others. I mean, it's John Lennon, what the hell am I supposed to say? You know, even after so long, I think the Eagles can still pull it off. I mean, it's a pretty catchy song. Ah yes, the one thing that everyone knows from Philip Glass. I mean, again, the daddy-daughter thing is pretty cute. Yo, shout out to Charles Mingus of the Jazz Legendaries. I feel like he gets underappreciated sometimes. Unlike other certain legendary jazz artists. As I said, I appreciate some gorillas. I even more appreciate some new gorillas. Bosses still got it. Album was heavy on the features, but considering the idea behind it, it makes sense. I mean, it was a good album, but considering how highly anticipated it was for a number of years, I don't know if it lived up to the hype. I mean, at least it's a different Christmas album, I guess. You know, we've done every single one of these since volume 22, minus 24 for whatever reason. Again, nice to hear some stuff in the studio from them. Is it the best rap album ever? No, but it was fun to listen to some new Busta Rhymes. I feel like the most powerful part of this album is honestly all the features. Pretty good, but the thrill of it all very much still outshines it. I mean, Ariana Grande has been consistently knocking it out of the park at this point. This album is just vibes. I feel like I liked this one just a little bit more than Good Intentions. R.I.P. King Von, another release that was very much carried by its deluxe edition. After listening to this so-called disco album, boy, is it very much in line with all the house stuff we've been hearing. Don't know if Johnny Cash was the best choice to be put with an orchestra, but it's Johnny Cash, so he got put with an orchestra. I feel like C was better. I mean, this is just some good old-fashioned AC/DC. Again, just constantly. I just think it's fun to have the Plutos together. Another country artist that I always seem to enjoy. Not quite the powerhouse that Bad Guy became, but still a very good follow-up. Honestly, if you're a Piano Guys fan, you probably had all of this stuff anyway. Now, Neil Diamond works very well with an orchestra. Don't know if the Christmas album was necessary, but again, they're adorable. You can really hear Iron Maiden's age coming through on this. Body yada 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 yada. I feel like I just wanted this album to be more intense than it was. I'm honestly surprised we didn't do this one yet. I just want to go watch Home Alone now. I think Miley Cyrus just should have been a rock artist from the start. This was great. Bad Bunny just killing it this year. It's Elvis singing Christmas. What more could you want? Again, didn't expect a compilation from the White Stripes, but after listening through it, boy, I think they deserve it. I mean, I guess it's at least a new Christmas album? You know, honestly, I think this would have done better had it been released earlier in the year. Boy, did we probably need the title of this album. Weird that we started and ended the year with Fleetwood Mac. It bugs me that there's not an apostrophe in the word that's. Waited 10 years, and honestly, the wait might have been worth it. Just to prove that she could do it again, and boy did she. And there you go. That's literally 231 pieces of music that we listened to and talked about this year. Let's see what 2021 has. Happy New Year, y'all.
And now I need some help for the maestro, please. Maestro. 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 Maestro.